All right, and I'm speaking to Hugo Guerra. He's the award-winning visual effects supervisor and art director. He's also the cinematic director and visual effects supervisor for Fire Without Smoke. Hugo, welcome to the show. Tell me first, Fire Without Smoke. It's a very cool name for a company. What do you do as a cinematic director and visual effects supervisor?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here, Jeff. It's great to be here in Malaysia, and it's great to be talking here with you on your show. So Fire Without Smoke is an agency in London. It's based in London, and it's specialized on marketing for video games. It's been open for a year and a half, and as a cinematic director and a visual effects supervisor, what I do at the company is basically I direct and art direct game trailers and cinematics that we do for our clients. I also supervise shoots when we go and film, and also supervise compositing and visual effects development for the projects that we do.
Yeah. I went onto your portfolio website and I saw the list of games that you've been involved with, and it's a heaven for any gamers who because it's from your racing simulators like Gran Turismo, and then you've got games like Just Cause as well. How did you actually get into the gaming industry? What started it?
Well, I started doing those cinematics when I still worked at The Mill. The Mill is a visual effects company in London. It's the largest commercials company in London. It was about 800 people working there. And so I was the head of the compositing department at that company. And that's when I started doing game cinematics over there. But I've always had a huge love for games. I've always played games since I'm a little boy. I play games
on the Atari.
No, not that one. Not that. The first game systems I had was the Spectrum.
Wow, I have no idea what's that.
So it's a British computer. So
Okay.
it's a Spectrum Plus 3, and then I moved on to the Commodore Amiga,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
and then I moved on to the Mega Drive and the Master System, Mega Drive. So those are the first ones. But I've been playing games since I can remember. So it was always, for me, always a pleasure if I worked on a company that actually had clients involving with the games industry. I always wanted to try to be involved. So when I was at the Mill, most of my time I did commercials, and whenever a game came in, I always fought very hard to try to be involved on it.
And what was the first breakthrough game that you worked with, and you were probably a fan of, and you thought like, wow, I've done it.
Yeah, Gran Turismo was the first one.
Right.
When Sony approached, because the Mill had a very good relationship with Sony, and so when we got told that we were going to do a TV commercial for Gran Turismo 5, I was just like in heaven, because I played all the Gran Turismos, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's always been like I'm a very big racing game fan, and so it was a pleasure to do that trailer. That was the first one that I did on my career.
So tell me about the experience now. You're being a fan of a certain type of game, and then now you have your professional work with that game. How do you balance out from being a total fanboy and going all crazy and let's do this and let's do that, and also trying to justify let's be professional. This is what the quality we need, and this is what they want, not necessarily what I want. So how do you balance that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question, Jeff. I think the thing is you have to just be very professional, like you said. But being a fanboy and being so involved on games, because I play games every day and I play every console. I have all the consoles that are out now. I still have the old ones as well.
Nice.
So I have.
It's a museum now.
Yeah, it's a bit shocking to say, but I have 22 consoles on my house. So I have all them connected on a plasma, and I can still play a Dreamcast or a Sega Saturn or a Mega Drive if I want to, and I still do. So part of that, it's really important for our clients, because that means when we have meetings with our clients, they know that we play games as well, because they play games as well, and we know everything about the industry. So yes, it's a bit like a fanboy, but knowing what's coming out and knowing what's happening in the games industry is very important for our clients, especially knowing what games are going to come out so that they don't not collide with other games that we're trying to help the marketing on. But we always have to detach ourselves a little bit. I have worked on games that I don't really enjoy that much, but I still did them as professional as I could.
So how's that experience on working in games that you just probably not a fan of?
Well, I have a good example of that. Like it's not a secret for everyone that knows me that I'm really not a big shooters fan. I don't really like multiplayer games. I've always been a solo guy, and I think it's probably because I was a lonely child and I never had brothers, so I always played alone. So I when I did the Call of Duty Ghosts cinematics,
Oh, yeah.
I loved working them because they were really challenging, and it was a very, very good art direction on the cinematics. We were really happy to work on it, but I really don't really like Call of Duty. I never really did like the game, but but I still did the best I could, although I don't really play shooters, but that's just my personal taste.
So you get inspiration then from movies and books and stuff? Like that?
I mean, Call of Duty Ghosts was highly stylized project, so we got inspirations from really good graphic designers and from movies and from amazing, especially a lot of really amazing concept art that came from the concept art department at the Mill on Mill Plus. So yeah, it's still amazing to work on it anyway. I'm not gonna although I don't really play Call of Duty, it was amazing to play on.
So it didn't turn you into a fan after that as well?
No, no.
They'd probably tried, maybe we can get Hugo to be a fan after this.
I still play Call of Duty every year. I play the campaign, but I never really go into multiplayer games. I'm just not into it. The whole idea of just shooting for hours and hours, just doing the same thing. I like stories, and I like storytelling, and I like a campaign, and I like especially the last games that have been coming out as solo games, like Fallout and like
The Last of Us.
Yeah, The Last of Us and Until Dawn. Those games for me, those are the ones that scratch my itch. Those are the games that I like to play.
So tell me, Buzzy. So you've played so many games throughout this number of years now. What has been that one game that has stuck with you? It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a series. Like a latest series. It could be a game that probably was made 10 years ago. So what's that one game that really changed your life in
Well, I still to this day I actually have an answer for that. I know sometimes people are, which one is the best one, but I do. Like for me, Silent Hill 1 is my favorite game of all times, and Silent Hill 2 as well. But the series of Silent Hill, but Silent Hill 1 and Silent Hill 2, I still every year play it. And I played it several times now.
What is it about Silent Hill that just made you?
Well, I'm just like a huge fan of horror. I've always been a huge fan of horror films, and so Silent Hill was the most scary game I've ever played in my life. When I was younger, when I played Silent Hill 1 on the PS1, I was really shocked. It was really a scary experience, and Silent Hill 2 as well. And I will never forget that. And also the story and the drama that is involved. I don't want to spoil anything on the story because people haven't played sometimes. But it's just an amazing psychological terror game, with an amazing plot.
And were you disappointed with the movie?
Yeah, I was a little bit. And I'm also disappointed with the latest installations that came out from Konami. But lately, Konami has not been really that good at releasing certain things. I'm hoping that someday Konami makes good on their Silent Hill franchise, but it doesn't really look good at the moment.
Speaking of Konami, Kojima is he's obviously not there anymore, and he's probably going to do his own thing. What's your take on series like Metal Gear Solid and crafting up something of your own and then leaving it after a large organization like that? What's your take on all that?
Well, I mean, I can understand this point of view because he's been working there for so long, and it's not a secret that Konami is not really the Konami that it used to be, and a lot of the amazing people that were there, they left. Team Silent from Silent Hill, they left as well, and Kojima was the last one. Now there's really no one else left. You also had the Castlevania team also left as well. So I can understand his point of view because I think it became too corporate, and the company has become very focused on pinball machines and arcade machines, and
now moving to mobile and all.
Exactly. I mean, that's a decision, a corporate decision that they made, and that's why Kojima left. And no one really knows the whole story of what happened. But I'm really looking forward for his new company. I can't wait to see what he's going to release. But I think whenever someone works on a big company, if they're not comfortable on it, they should just, like he did, they should leave and they should open something else. I feel exactly the same way when I also decided to leave a big company. I worked at the Mill for 5 years. It was the largest commercials company in Europe, and I decided to leave because I wanted something new. I wanted to move to something fresher and something more connected to what I want to do, which is more working in the games industry.
So the gaming industry in Malaysia is growing. I know you've only been here for a couple of days now, and you probably never really got the real sense of feel, maybe slightly. But it's a growing community. Even there are a lot of governments trying to push as well. Into e-gamings and sports. It's big money now, right? What is your advice to people who are listening to this and they probably still have some hesitation hesitations, and when it comes to the gaming industry, does it really make money? What is your advice to people who are skeptical about the gaming industry?
Well, the games industry is really the next big industry, and it's booming everywhere. It's already boomed on the United States, on Europe. It's already surpassed the Hollywood revenues, for 2 years now. That has been giving more money than Hollywood. And so my advice is really for them to really, really support it and really move forward. And the same advice I give to my students and I give to people that work with me. There's a huge bridge between visual effects and 3D animation and gaming. And a lot of people that, young people that now are starting, they don't really realize that if they know 3D or if they know Maya or if they know a certain application that works in graphic design or in Photoshop, they can use those applications in the games industry as well. Sometimes people get a bit locked thinking, well, I'm not going to work in commercials or I'm not going to work in film. Well, there's this entire games industry on this side, which also requires a lot of talent. And so I think my advice to Malaysia is really to support, to open up schools to cultivate talent and really get the train, because the games industry is going to become the biggest entertainment industry in the world.
And it's interesting you mentioned talent, because talent is always something that we always talk about, especially here in Malaysia. A lot of talents are moving out of Malaysia and trying to, diversify their experience and all. What do you think, we as an artist here in Malaysia can do to get into that international level and be recognized? Is there some secret sauce that we don't know about?
It's not a secret sauce, it's always about to do, of course, with working hard and developing your showreel and developing your portfolio of work and trying to see what's happening outside your country. I speak for myself from experience because I'm from Portugal. I'm from a very small country in terms of visual effects, a very small country in games. There's no game industry really in Portugal. So I kind of feel that kind of thing. And what I did when I started my career was I was always looking outside to other countries to see what was in fashion, what was happening in all these big industries, and tried to learn to try to get into that kind of level of quality. That's the main thing, doing online courses. And for me, it was more difficult because back then there was no YouTube. But these days, all this knowledge and all this learning is actually very available online. You can find a lot of things on YouTube, you can find a lot of things on Vimeo, you can find a lot of things online, and even very cheap courses that you can actually buy online. So it's all up to you to actually just investigate what's happening in the major developing countries of the game, like United States, Japan, UK. Those are the biggest games, the biggest game companies are on those countries. So you just have to look at what they're doing and then try to learn your craft to try to get in.
And also there's, one of the things that I always have in mind is, having a style. Because you've got YouTube, because you've got so many platforms, and you mentioned about the vast options that you can learn from. Is it then harder now to sort of create your own style because there's just so many references compared to before YouTube, before Facebook and all that? You used to have a certain style that you imagine on your own and you create on your own. Right now, it's all based on a reference that you've seen online, that you've worked online. Is that more difficult now to finding an own style?
I think it's funny that you're saying that. That's a challenge not only for the people who are starting now, but even for the companies that exist right now. I think the world is saturated by different games that came out and the different styles, and it's very difficult not to imitate and not to repeat. It's very difficult, and that's why you see so many HD remasters and you see so many games that just come out again and things just repeat and repeat and repeat. But I think it's super important to develop your creativity and develop your own style. That's still very important. And I remember when I was at the mill and I had my compositing department, when I looked for talent and I interviewed people, I was always looking for people that, yes, had a very good technical knowledge of the software, but also had some kind of artistic flair. And so I was always looking for their CV to see, okay, do they do photography? Do they paint? Do they draw? Maybe they do some music? Maybe they are part of a theater play? Those are really important things, and I think they really balance the technique and the creativity of an artist, And that's when you combine technique and you combine creativity, that's when you really develop something original. So I think, yes, there is a lot. It's very noisy with all these online courses and online references, But I still think you can get originality. I still think it's possible.
All right. So 2016 is about to really change the gaming industry because of virtual reality. It's coming. It's confirmed now that 2016 is the year of virtual reality. Sony's announced their Oculus Rift is one of them. You've also got Samsung with the and also with Valve, and their virtual reality headset. How is that going to change the gaming industry? You've played around with a few as well. You've tried out a few.
I've tried all of them now.
All of them now.
Yes.
What is your experience?
So I've
Tell
tried
me
all of
about
them,
it.
So I was very fortunate. I was at Gamescom last year, and I was also at EGX, and I managed to try every single one of them.
Nice.
And I have an Oculus in my house. I have an Oculus developer too.
Envy here.
Yeah. So it's really, yes, definitely this year is the year of the VR. I'm not sure if it's going to be the year that is going to be really, really on everyone's houses, but it's going to be the year of the VR for the first adopters, people that are just going to buy it. I'm going to buy the PlayStation VR right away. I'm sold.
You're sold on this.
I'm sold on that because of Gran Turismo. So that is the only reason for it. But in Driveclub as well, because I tried it with it. But for me, from my take, I can see it on this way. The Vive is without a doubt the best one. Like, it's in terms of quality, in terms of lagging, it has a 120 hertz on the it has 2K on each on the screen. It is the best piece of kit. I experienced the demos on Gamescom where I walked around on a big room. It was a Valve demo with Portal, and then I also played Valkyrie as well, and it was mind blowing. Wow. It was crisp, it was perfect, no lag. And I felt like I was there, and I walked around, and it was the most perfect one.
Imagine playing Silent Hill on that.
Yeah, it would have been scary as hell. The problem I think that Valve faces is that it's going to be the most expensive one. They haven't released the price, but it clearly is, because it's the most high-quality one. It has sensor trackers all over the room. It's going to be the most expensive one. So it's going to be the hardest for people to buy. But it's going to be the specialized one. Then you have on the other side Oculus, which is already released the price. Everyone was expecting it to be less, but Oculus is a bit worse quality, but I think it's going to be very well adopted because it has Facebook supporting it. Facebook has so much money that they can they probably could have released it and lose money on it and still not be a problem.
Yeah.
And then I think on the middle, I have PlayStation. PlayStation, I'm going to buy it because for me is the only one that I can just plug in and it works. That's the only one. The other ones I need to install drivers and I need to install updates and I need to have these super advanced computers to run them. The PSVR, I plug it into the PlayStation and it's working. And the lag is amazing because it's 120 hertz. The monitor is only HD, so it's a bit not as sharp as the other ones. And also it's the only one that I can actually have my glasses. It's very big, so you can actually have your glasses inside. So it's.
Does it make you look dorky then?
Yeah, it's really big. It's like a really big thing. But yeah, I think the PlayStation VR is going to sell very well because it's so easy to connect. And then the Oculus, and I think Vive is going to suffer.
But how does it change from an animator's point of view or visual effects point of view? Does it change a lot? Trying to do something that's VR ready.
Yeah, it does. Like if it's full 3D. It requires you to actually, get the entire environments to run in real time. So you don't have to, before you could just render what was in front of you. That means now you actually have to think about every single thing around you. And not only the image, but also the sound has to be surround sound that it actually connects to everything is in the room. So it's a huge challenge. It's going to need more work and you're going to need more modeling. You're going to need more animation and also you have to be careful not to put people sick because of movement. There's a lot of those problems. If you talk about video, like VR footage, that is also a big challenge, especially because of the bandwidth of video, because you require such a big bandwidth to actually play a 4K clip. Because if you try an HD piece of video on a VR set, it's not really going to cut it. It's not enough, the quality. So I think it's a bit like when 3D came out, and it's a bit like when we switched from SD to HD. It just became a bigger problem for computer processing, for the hard drives need to be faster. I think it's really similar to HD from SD to SD. I still remember when we were working on SD and we started doing commercials on HD. That was a huge problem, because it required so much more rendering time and so much more detail on the textures and so much more finessing on the 3D. So
and 3D was something that they expected everyone to have 3D TVs at home, but they didn't quite kick off.
I have one.
I'm sure you.
I can tell you that I bought a 3D TV just because I could play Gran Turismo in 3D. And because racing games work really well in 3D because it's a fix. It's like a theater play, you know. It's a fixed object that you have in front of you, and then you have the roads running. So it's really works really well.
Since you're a big fan of Gran Turismo and racing cars, what do you drive on a daily basis?
I don't have a driver's license.
It's all in the virtual reality world here.
I know, it's really silly. I know. You know, I live in London. You know, you live in London. Do not need.
You don't have it.
I was supposed to do my driver's license several times already, but when I come to do it, I just what am I gonna have it? I'm not gonna drive a car in London, and I'm just gonna use the tube. So I just don't see the. Maybe I'll do it someday. I don't know.
I'm sure there are some nice driving roads in Portugal. So you know, maybe if you ever get back to it. Now, what are some of the games that you're looking forward for 2016?
Well, I'm still playing the backlog from 2015. I mean, I finished a lot of games this year. You know, I still managed to play all of them. I'm still really inside Fallout. Really, I'm still playing a lot. I finished it, but there's so much more else to play. And Metal Gear is the same thing. I finished it, but I still have things to take care of on it. But I'm really the next big games. I'm really looking forward. If it doesn't get delayed, I hope not. I really hope Gran Turismo comes out this year. I don't know if it will be. I doubt it.
You don't have any insider news since you've worked on Gran Turismo 5?
I mean, there's so many games coming out. I don't know. It's a hard question. There's so many. You know, I don't know actually. It's hard to tell which ones am I looking forward for.
But virtual reality is something that you're going to be getting.
Oh,
definitely.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Hugo, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Jeff. It was a pleasure as well.
And hope you enjoy Malaysia as well, since you're going to be here for another couple of days as well, right?
Yeah, no, well, I'm leaving tomorrow, but I had an amazing time so far. Awesome. And today I'm going to visit the city and hopefully go to the Patrono Towers and just have a look, and it's going to be good.
Very nice. I've been speaking to Hugo Guerra. He's the cinematic director and also the visual effects supervisor for Fire Without Smoke. This has been Tech Talk on BFM 89.9. Cool. Thank you, man.